So yeah, let's get started. Here we have an example of a free text question. Free text questions are answered by one or two phrases or sentences, where the focus is on the content of the answer rather than the quality of the English or the grammar. So they match the style of the questions found in STEM exams quite well. Free text answers allow flexibility in the learner's response, which makes the automated marking difficult, unfortunately. But so there are alternatives to free text questions for assessing this type of construct. There is multiple choice or drag and drop close questions, but the provided options in these question types affect the efficacy of the question by providing hints as to the possible answers, and where possible, it's best to avoid that. So we've recently started supporting free text questions on Isaac Physics and Isaac Computer Science, which is a learning platform for A-level and GCSE students. We did this by incorporating the Open University's free text marking component from their OpenMark project. They say that they use this method by algorithmic keyword manipulation, which is quite similar to how exam mark schemes are, really, where you look for keywords in the answer. So you match the keywords using regular expression style wildcards, and they also provide phrase level manipulators of the answers, such as allowing for extra words or words out of order. Our most extensive use so far of free text questions has been with our collaboration with the Open University. They are researching into the effect of asking questions in a free text form rather than multiple choice questions. And in the process for this, they would initially mark 100 questions by hand. Then they would create the rules using the rule maker to match those answers and then evaluate it on unseen test data. So when we hosted the questions on the physics site, there were nearly 2,000 question attempts over the 32 questions for evaluation. The results that the initial analysis showed high accuracy. There was about 94% accuracy of matching the human marking, which is quite comparable with human marking scores, because humans also make mistakes when they are marking questions, but it does require an initial sample of about 60, or in this case 100 human marked answers, and question creation or the rule creation can require quite a lot of effort and skill. I've heard the task of constructing these rules to match what the human marked ones, a bit like a game of whack-a-mole, where you change the rules to fix one and it breaks the others. But so to help with that, we have constructed a little tool, which is a bit like it's really a test harness. But I've got a demo, but it is a pre-recorded video, just in case things went wrong. yeah, here is the tool. We have the rules there on the top. Then we have, here is the test harness. We submit it. So the tests have, each test case has the predicted, whether it's predicted to be correct or incorrect. But then we see that it doesn't match the actual response. So then we can go in and alter the rules to match as we would expect, because we'd forgotten to think of those synonyms for that answer. And then we press enter to submit again, and we see that we now get 4 out of 4. We can export the tests as CSV, and then we can use it in the future for tests once we have more, whether we want to change the rules in the future. So rule creation can be difficult. It requires quite a lot of initial samples. Are there any other options? So the big tech companies recently have thrown quite a lot of money and computational resource into natural language processing. So they've basically trained a big neural network to play lots of little word prediction games on a ton of unlabeled data. And by getting good at these little prediction games, which like, what is the missing word? Is this sentence lead on from the previous sentence and stuff? Well, they sort of by accident, they've constructed a n-dimensional space which approximates a measure of the English language. So what this means is that you can put in a phrase or a word or a sentence, you put it into the model, and you get out a embedding, a 700 plus dimensional vector, which is called a phrase embedding or a word embedding, which is in a place which is near things which have similar meaning. So in our example here, we have neither and none of them. They're much closer to each other than they are to the phrase the lorry. And so what this means is that we can use this for sentence or answer comparison. So we are using a particular version which is called a sentence BERT, which is a modification of the pre-trained BERT network, which Google developed for quicker sentence similarity comparison. And then we feed the student answers into the get the BERT embedding. So when we select a few model correct answers and a few model incorrect answers, we can then mark new unseen test answers by basically creating a nearest neighbor algorithm through a cosine similarity between the vectors. So yeah, here we have a dimensionality, like through dimensionality reduction, so squishing down the 700 plus dimensional vectors into two dimensions using the t-SNE plot. We can see that so the green circles are correct answers, the red boxes are incorrect answers, and there's still clear discernible differences between the categories, even after collapsing down the dimensionality. And we also get little clusters. So there's, if we might get a chance to look at the actual words in these in this plot in the future, if we have time at the end. But yeah, we predict that cluster analysis could be used to detect common wrong answers, or maybe categories of misconceptions. So as a pretest to show the viability of this, we ran a test which selected on random, well, in the first instance, 10 correct answers and 20 incorrect answers. And that produced accuracy which was quite similar to the rule-based accuracy. We then tried with smaller samples, even down to 1 correct example and 4 incorrect examples. On some questions, there's still relatively high accuracies. And this was just by randomly selecting from a sample of answers. We would expect that curated selection of the question answers, like the model answers, would give better results than this. And it's quite interesting that it worked relatively well in some cases with so little amount of samples, because we actually do have large question banks of question answer examples. They're just multiple choice questions. So the correct option in the multiple choice can be one of the model answers, and the incorrect ones can be the other multiple choice model answers. So answer embeddings using these massive pre-trained models by Google and Facebook could simplify question construction, because you're just giving an example in plain English of a correct answer and an incorrect answer. It could require less training samples, and we could potentially see clusters of common wrong answers and misconceptions. So the pretest should encourage further research. Some of the things that we'd like to try so we'd like to test the effectiveness of converting multiple choice questions into free text questions. It is quite possible that it might not be quite good enough to be used properly, but it might be enough to bootstrap initially while you get more samples from the site to then get human marked and improved upon. So we would also like to check to see how accurately cluster analysis on sentence embeddings categorize different types of misconceptions. The BERT models that we used was the generic BERT model, pre-trained model, whereas now it's quite easy to fine-tune those with unlabeled data. So we should try that with some physics corpus or computer science corpus. It might improve accuracy slightly. And potentially, if the multiple question options are not enough examples of model answers, we could potentially use the language models to produce semantically similar paraphrasings of those answers, which might help boost the initial number of samples. But I guess before we get too carried away with that, we should at least consider the effect of having false positives and false negative results for the students, and try to make sure that we're not introducing any unintended biases from using this pre-trained model, which is a common problem in machine learning. That is all for me. Thank you for listening.